Our story begins with Hana lounging in her room, flipping through the pages of her favorite shoujo manga as she reads about fairy tale romances and dramatic confessions. She wonders what it would be like to experience that kind of love in real life. By the next morning, those thoughts still linger as she eats breakfast with her family. Her dad tries to make small talk, but it's obvious he has an agenda. He wants to know if Hana has a crush. When she doesn't answer him directly, he immediately jumps to conclusions and assumes that she does and panics, insisting she's too young for love. Trying to calm him down, Hana quietly admits to herself that given her looks, she might not ever experience a relationship like the ones in her manga. Just then, her mom walks in, slightly scolding her dad for yelling so early in the morning. But instead of cooling down, her dad blurts out that Hana has a crush. Much to his dismay, her mom is excited by the news. She starts pressing Hana for details, but Hana quickly rushes through her meal and escapes before things get even more awkward. On her way to school, Hana feels a twinge of guilt, not because she's hiding a crush, but because she hasn't made a single friend since starting high school. Most days, she just spends her breaks in the bathroom, playing gay games on her phone. Once she arrives in class, Hana is relieved to be the first one there. Opens up and she immediately goes over to tend to the classroom flowers, enjoying the rare moment where she can feel like a pretty girl tending to flowers. As she moves to throw the old flowers out, she notices that some of the flowers from the previous day are still fresh. So she carefully places some in her hair, pretending just for a second that she's the heroine of her favorite manga, as she checks how she looks on her phone. But then, breaking her from her small moment of bliss, Yusuke walks into the classroom. Caught mid-facent, Hana freezes. She panics at the thought that Yusuke might tell everyone about her weird habit, and, in a desperate move, she even considers bribing him with cash. But Yusuke doesn't notice her panic or the attempted bribe. Instead, he casually compliments the flower in her hair. Hana, not used to compliments, completely misreads his tone and thinks he's mocking her. Embarrassed, she bolts out of the room, leaving Yusuke confused for her sudden shyness. As he watches her leave, he notices the flower on the table is different from yesterday's. The school starts to fill up, but Hana hides in the bathroom, scolding herself for acting like a shoujo manga character. She knows real life doesn't work that way, and she's convinced she's about to become the joke of the school, since Yusuke will probably tell everyone how weird she is. As the chimes ring, she steels herself and slowly heads back to class, praying that Yusuke hasn't told anyone. When she enters the room, she overhears Yusuke and his friends chatting nearby. Assuming the worst, her stomach drops. But then Yusuke approaches her, slightly concerned, since she had run away from him earlier. She avoids eye contact, but he gently steps into her line of sight and dangles a muffin in front of her. He tells her it's from Sumer, a popular girl who baked enough for the entire class. And this one, he says with a small smile, is hers. Hana blushes at the rare display of kindness, surprised that someone like Yusuke would go out of his way to give her something. But the moment is short-lived as he is quickly called back to his seat by his friends, who are apparently devouring all of his muffins. As he leaves, Hana feels a wave of relief. At least he didn't say anything about what happened earlier that morning. Class begins, but Hana's worries return as she believes that Yusuke will eventually tell someone. She convinces herself that she has to do something, anything, to make sure her secret is safe. She decides to confront him during break time when they are both free, but when the break finally comes, Hana stays frozen in her seat. She has no idea how to approach Yusuke, especially when he's always surrounded by people. She decides to wait till people disperse around him before approaching him. She ends up following him around, hoping for a perfect opening, but no luck. Wherever Yusuke goes, a friend is always by his side. During PE, Hana watches as he outshines all the other guys without even trying. Whether it's his athleticism, his easygoing nature, or just the way he treats others, Yusuke's popularity is on another level. She begins to think that maybe he's kind of cool. But she quickly snaps out of it, reminding herself that this isn't about falling for him. It's about protecting her secret. Someone like her doesn't have the right to even talk to someone like him. So instead, she decides to write a letter, as it is easier and no one has to know. As she nervously approaches the shoe locker area to slip her note into Yusuke's shoebox, she notices another girl standing there too, holding a letter of her own. Hana quickly hides and listens in. One of the girls confesses that she's finally going to confess to Yusuke with a love letter as her friend cheers her on to push through with it. Hana's face turns beet red as she realizes she is witnessing a real love confession through a letter, just like in her manga. Suddenly, she starts to panic that her letter might be seen as a possible love letter as well. Before she can decide what to do, Yusuke spots her and walks over with a friendly smile, clearly wanting to talk. Hana's heart races, but she tells herself that this is the perfect chance to confront him about her secret. But before she can say anything, Tetsuo calls out to Yusuke, telling him to hurry back to the classroom with him. Yusuke tries to explain that Hana was just about to say something, but Hana shakes her head, loses her nerve, and runs away. Watching her go, Tetsu asks who she is, and is shocked to learn that Hana has been their classmate this whole time. He's never even noticed her before. The school day ends without Hana ever handing over the letter. Feeling defeated, she leaves the classroom to water the flowers in the garden, hoping to drown her thoughts in routine. But then Yusuke appears again, running up to her. He apologizes for not finishing their conversation during lunch. Seeing that Yusuke had gone out of his way to apologize, Hana finally gathers the courage to ask him to keep her secret about putting flowers in her hair. To her surprise, Yusuke's eyes light up. That's when it hits him. Anna is the one who's been arranging the classroom flowers every morning. He beams at her, genuinely delighted. He tells her he's always appreciated the flower arrangements and have been wondering who was behind them, but Hana misinterprets his smile. She assumes he's disappointed that someone like her, someone she sees as plain and unattractive, was the one doing it. So flustered, she quickly apologizes. Yuk is confused, but doesn't press further. He says he has to get going, mentioning that he has something to finish up. Before leaving, he reassures her with a smile that he won't tell anyone about the flowers. Hana, still dazed from the conversation, can't help but replays words in her head. The way he promised to keep her secret? It sounded exactly like something the male lead in a shoujo manga would say to the heroine. To snap herself out of the fantasy, she gives herself a hard slap on the cheek. Still unconvinced that someone could be that nice, she imagines a darker version of the scenario. Yosuke saying the same promise but with an evil grin, telling her he'll use the secret as blackmail material. The next day, Hana wakes up from that imaginary nightmare and heads to school. After finishing her morning committee duties, she hides away in the bathroom and plays a visual novel where she's romancing a fictional guy. She manages to get a good response from the in-game character and thinks how easy life would be if real people had visible affection meters and that players should be given dialogue options like in games. That way she knows exactly how to interact with others. Eventually, she returns to the classroom and Yuke is the first to notice her. He calls out to her cheerfully, which startles Hana so much that her chair nearly falls backward. But it's caught just in time by Sumer, who smiles warmly at her. Yuke rushes over to check on them as Sumer scolds him for surprising Hana. The two slip into an easy, natural conversation which Hana watches in silent awe. They invite her to go over assignments with them, but Hana freezes, unsure how to respond. Before she can say anything, another classmate injects himself into the conversation. Later in the day, the teacher reminds everyone about their committee meetings. Hana eagerly heads out, only to be stopped by a fellow beautification committee member from another class who asks if Hana can cover for her due to an urgent matter. Hana agrees to help without a second thought. In truth, she prefers working alone rather than with committee members she barely speaks to. When the meeting starts, the beautification committee is told to pair up due to the large workload. Hana quickly realizes how much work there is, but still reassures the committee president that she's fine handling both her own responsibilities and the missing members' share. After some hesitation, the president accepts her offer. Soon, Hana finds herself alone, staring at the big number of bags of soil and plants meant for a new flower bed. Meanwhile, as Yusuke is about to head home, he overhears the very girl Hana offered to cover for, casually bragging about skipping a meeting. Apparently, she had no intention of helping and showed no remorse for dumping the work on Hana. Annoyed by what he hears, Yusuke texts his friends that he'll meet them later and rushes off to find Hana. He spots her just as she's about to start planting. Hana jumps in surprise when Yusuke suddenly shows up and offers to help. She immediately tries to talk him out of it, pointing out how dirty and sweaty the work is. But Yusuke insists, saying it doesn't feel right that she's doing everything alone. Thinking he's misunderstanding the situation, that she's getting bullied, Hana panics a little. She explains that she volunteered to help because her fellow committee member had urgent business to attend to. Still, Yusuke chooses to stay, and before long they fall into a steady rhythm of planting together. As a gentle breeze passes by, Hana catches a whiff of Yusuke's colon. It smells just as nice as he looks. That realization hits her hard. She suddenly becomes very aware of how sweaty and smelly she is. Embarrassed, she starts working farther away, worried that he'll notice her smell. Yuk looks up to say something, and is surprised to see her moving to the other side of the flower bed. Thanks to his help, they finish the work while the sun is still in the sky. Just then, Hana's stomach growls, and to her horror, Yusuke hears it. He just laughs and says it's totally normal to be hungry after hard work. Before she knows it, Hana finds herself walking to a convenience store with him. As they browse for food, she begins to regret it, worried someone might recognize them together. Yusuke notices her troubled expression and assumes she's just super hungry. Feeling guilty for dragging him along, Hana offers to treat him, but Yusuke refuses and pays for his own food. He tells her to take her time chewing and that he'll wait outside. Once she checks out, Hana comes up to him with a plastic bag and insists he take it as thanks. Yusuke hesitantly accepts, only to find it packed with snacks and drinks. Hana shyly admits she didn't know what he likes, so she just bought a little of everything. Moved by her kindness, Yusuke decides to give her his courage. She takes a bite and her face lights up with joy. Seeing her reaction, Yusuke grins and casually tells her that he'll buy courage for two so they can share the next time. Hana nearly chokes on her food at the suggestion. Yusuke, starved, scrambles to hand her a bottle of water. As she gulps it down, Hana can't help but wonder how Yusuke makes conversations feel so natural. From a distance, unknown to the two, Sumire watches them silently. As Hana realizes their conversation falling more naturally, she allows herself to think that she finally found a friend. One morning, Sumire was sharing a flyer for a nearby bowling alley. Her friends gathered around and suggested that they should all go one day. Sutu, who is eavesdropping on the conversation, suddenly reveals that he has a coupon for 50% off. He offers to give it to them, but Sumire insists that he should come along too. She admits it wouldn't sit right with her to use the coupon if Sutu weren't there as well. Suto, now excited, rushes over to Yusuke and asks him to join them. The moment Yusuke agrees to go, almost all the other boys immediately follow suit. With the plan quickly expanding into a class hangout, Sumerier then decides to invite Hana too, wanting to include her in a class activity. Caught off guard, Hana doesn't quite hear Samira properly and accidentally agrees. And just like that, Hana ends up at the bowling alley with nearly her entire class. As the class begins deciding on teams, Hana tries to wrap her head around how she ended up there in the first place. She glances around at the group, especially at the girls, and realizes she doesn't even know most of them. The girls decide their groups through rock, paper, scissors. To Hana's surprise, she ends up on the same team as Sumer, who looks genuinely delighted by the result. Hana can't help but admire Sumer's kindness and cheerful energy, so she tells herself that she'll try her best today. Sumer leaves to go look for their male teammates. Hana quietly feels grateful for this unexpected turn of events until she realizes who their male teammates are: Yusuke, Sutu, and Tetsuo. Sutu? When the game begins, Hana watches in awe as Sumer bowls effortlessly. Not only is she good, but she somehow manages to look adorable while doing it. Their team cheers her on, and soon enough, it's Hana's turn. Nervously, she steps up to the lane. Just as she's about to throw the ball, the lights dim and a loud announcement echoes through the alley. It's time for the Moonlight Challenge. The current players get one shot. If they knock down 9 or more pins, it's counted as a strike. And the winners get a free photo booth picture. Samir immediately says she wants to win so she can take photos, and Sutu starts hyping Hana up, cheering for her to win the challenge. Hana watches the other players throw their balls before nervously trying her best. Unfortunately, hers rolls straight into the gutter. Embarrassed, she quietly returns to her team. Yusuke gently tells her to watch him bowl so she can learn how to aim and score better next time. Yusuke effortlessly lands a strike, shocking Hana with how smooth and natural his movements are. As she steps back, she notices Sutu taking a selfie nearby. He explains that he needs to update his story, and proudly shows the picture to Hana. But when she looks at it, she's confused. The photo doesn't even show him bowling. Samira giggles and says she loves how photos give people something to look back on. Suddenly, she asks if she can take a photo of Hana and Yusuke together. Yusuke poses without hesitation, but Hana freezes. She has no idea how to react. She fidgets nervously, and the photo ends up blurry. Still, Samira seems content and continues snapping photos of their team throughout the day. Later on, Hana mentally prepares herself for one more game. She carefully polishes her bowling ball, determined to do better. Yusuke and Tetsuo come over to check on her, noticing how shiny her ball has become. Deciding maybe she's gone a bit overboard, Hana places the ball back down and grabs her strawberry milk instead. Suddenly, Tetsu brings up something unexpected. He asks what she and Yusuke were talking about the other day. Yusuke immediately scolds Tetsu, saying that his conversation with Hana is meant to stay a secret. Hana stares at Yusuke, stunned. She didn't think he'd actually keep his word. The fact that he remembered and defended her makes her heart flutter. She blushes, touched by his kindness. Samira, however, seems to notice their exchange. Before long, it's Hana's turn again. Nervously, she steps up to the lane. Remembering Yusuke's advice, she takes a breath, clears her mind, and tries to mimic his form. The ball rolls down the lane, and to her delight, it knocks down all the pins, granting her a strike. Her team cheers, and as she turns back, Yusuke is the first to congratulate her, flashing her an encouraging smile. As she returns, blushing, Hana thanks him sincerely. For the first time, she feels like she's not just doing better, she feels like she's making real friends. Yusuke, moved by her words, quietly prepares for his next turn. Meanwhile, Hana, still riding the high of her success, notices her shoelace is untied. She quickly bends down to tie it, using the ball return for balance, completely unaware that the ball is already on its way back, and slams into her fingers. Samira immediately brings her over to the vending machines and buys her a cold drink to help with the swelling. Hana is grateful, but her excitement has completely faded. She blames herself for ruining the fun. She wonders if Samira regrets inviting her and starts to apologize, but Samira beats her to it, apologizing first. Noticing Hana's confused expression, Samira admits to herself that she may have meddled too much. Her intention was to give Hana a chance to spend more time with Yusuke under the assumption that the two of them were secretly dating. Hana stares at her completely blank. Her mind reels, parting slightly in shock before she silently asks Samira to clarify what she meant. Samira, unfazed, brings up the convenience store counter where she had seen Hana and Yusuke together. Yusuke's arm draped around Hana's shoulders as they exited. She also recalls overhearing Tetsuo mention that the two had a private conversation one afternoon. The weight of the misunderstanding hits Hana all at once. She worries that such a rumor could ruin his reputation or make others treat him differently. In her flustered state, Hana tries to explain herself. She insists that there is absolutely nothing romantic between her and Yusuke. She tells Semayer that Yusuke is just the kind of person who's kind to everyone regardless of appearance or status. In her mind, she's just another Adim, someone interesting in the way a peculiar object might be. Sumayera's expression shifts. Relief washes over her face and she seems to understand. But before Hana can fully register that response, Yusuke appears beside them, casually returning their bags. Their classmates have already gone, and the day is quietly coming to an end. Hana accepts her bag and watches the two of them walk ahead. She finds herself quietly admiring how natural they look together. Hana can't help but think they would make a great couple. During Golden Week, Hana wakes up to a message from Sumer. Still groggy, she checks her phone and finds a handful of photos from the bowling trip. She scrolls through them, each one capturing small, cheerful moments between teammates. Seeing herself among them feels surreal. Her quiet reflection is interrupted when her mother calls her down for lunch. Soon, she finds herself seated at a restaurant with her parents. Her father brings up how much she's grown and even starts teasing her about future weddings. Her mother joins in the playful banter as Hana browses the menu, pretending not to hear them. As the waiter approaches to take their order, Hana glances up and freezes. Kneeling beside their table is Yusuke, wearing the uniform of the restaurant. It takes her a moment to process it. Reality hits like a brick. Yusuke, it turns out, works part-time at the okonomiyaki place. Hana's face burns with embarrassment. She hadn't expected to run into him here, of all places. All she wants now is to eat quickly and head home to pretend the whole thing never happened, but her parents are far too curious. Even her father notes out loud that Yusuke is surprisingly good-looking. Seeing that Hana isn't offering clear answers, her mother takes matters into her own hands and begins directing questions straight to Yusuke. To Hana's horror, Yusuke answers each one cheerfully, unaware that her mother tends to go overboard once she starts. Just as Hana begins to panic, her father steps in to remind his wife that they still need to place their order. Hana silently thanks him until he casually announces that Hana will be getting a large serving of natto kimchi. Yusuke appears unfazed, but Hana, mortified, quickly tries to change her order to a small veggie okonomiyaki instead. Her mother, however, insists loudly that there will be no changes, adding that Hana is just too shy around handsome men. Yusuke quietly accepts the order as is, but Hana pleads with him to please give her the vegetable dish anyway. When Yusuke heads off to prepare the food, both parents begin eyeing Hana with curious expressions. Her mother looks absolutely thrilled at the idea of Hana having such a good-looking friend. Her father, while slightly amused, still reminds her that Hana is too young to have a boyfriend. Before Hana can recover, Tetsuo walks into the restaurant and immediately spots them. He greets her parents politely, only further fueling her mother's enthusiasm at the realization that Hana has made more than one friend. Watching her parents, Hana can practically read their thoughts just from their expressions. The situation is becoming more unbearable by the minute, so she decides the only way to keep things from spiraling is to keep her mother distracted. When the ingredients arrive at the table, Hana tries to volunteer to cook, but her mother quickly requests that Yusuke be the one to cook for them. Hana protests, but Tetsuo backs her mother up, claiming that okonomiyaki is safest in Yusuke's capable hands. He even jokes that he could fall asleep and still trust the dish to be perfect. Hana tells herself she can endure 10 minutes of bland conversation to prevent further embarrassment, but before she can even begin, her mother beats her to it and asks both boys if they have girlfriends. Tetsu replies respectfully with a simple no. Yusuke, on the other hand, seems to hesitate slightly, glancing at Hana before answering. The awkward pause doesn't go unnoticed. Feeling the tension rising, Hana tries once more to take over the cooking, but in her haste, her fingers brush against the edge of the hot grill. She winces and quickly excuses herself, heading to the restroom to cool her burned hand. Alone, she reflects on how these kinds of embarrassing moments seem to be happening more often lately. When she returns to the table, the food's already prepared. As she begins eating, she notices a glass filled to the brim with ice beside her plate. It was left there by Yusuke for her burn. Touched by the gesture, she promises her parents she'll thank him properly when they settle the bill. Her mother, however, has other plans. She reminds Hana that she still has to thank him when he brings out the birthday cake she ordered in secret. Yusuke reappears just in time to overhear this and is surprised to learn that it's Hana's birthday. She had hoped to keep that detail quiet, but instead of teasing her, Yusuke simply says he would have written a birthday message on her okonomiyaki if he'd known. Tetsu then offers her a photo booth coin he won during the bowling trip. Yusuke rummages through his apron and pulls out a couple of coupons as his gift. He tells her his shift schedule and mentions that he hopes she'll visit again. Overwhelmed, Hana promises to celebrate both of their birthdays, only to immediately regret blurting it out. But to her surprise, both boys smile and reveal that their birthdays fall on holidays too. Samira remembers she had always gotten attention due to her good looks, even as a child. By the time she reached 4th grade, she realized she could use it to her advantage. Life could instantly be easier thanks to her popularity. Now as she makes her way to class, a boy approaches her asking for her Ion account. She inwardly cringes, wondering how to turn him down without ruining her reputation. Putting on a troubled expression, Sutu quickly rushes in to shoo the boy away. The guy retreats for now, and Sutu takes the opportunity to ask for her Ion account so they can mail each other. But before Samira can answer, one of her friends pulls her away. When she enters the classroom, she's greeted by Yusuke. She thinks to herself that if Yusuke were the one asking for her IA number, she would readily give it to him since he's handsome, kind, and easy to talk to. But instead of lingering on her, Yusuke walks past and heads straight to Hana, offering her some lunch coupons from his work for her mother. Samira finds it suspicious that Yusuke is concerned about Hana's mother and starts to wonder how deep their relationship truly goes. Trying to reassure herself that there's nothing going on between Yusuke and Hana, Samira is once again thrown off when she sees Tetsu acting equally friendly with Hana. She begins to wonder what kind of strategist Hana is and decides to insert herself into their conversation to find out. Hana greets her nervously, unaware that Sumer is now determined to uncover the secret to her charm. During gym class, Sumer pairs up with Hana, hoping to learn what makes her so appealing to the boys, especially Yusuke. To her disappointment, Hana goes through the exercises with zero effort to be cute or charming. With PD being a complete failure, Summer decides to get to know Hana better by inviting her to lunch. She shows off a cute, well-prepared bento as they sit across from each other. When Hana reveals her own lunch, both she and Sumer are horrified to see it's just plain rice and pickled plum. Yusuke notices the two sitting together, something he's observed more often lately. A week later, Sumer sits in the girls' restroom, satisfied with the thought that if anyone were to compare her to Hana, she would still come out as the better girl. As she walks through the hall, Sumer briefly thinks that Hana is aware she's being watched and has been deliberately dodging her observations. So when she runs into Hana, she decides to join her after school for beautification committee chores. She inwardly groans as she sits next to Hana by the flower bed, already dreading sunburn and getting dirty, but she maintains a cheerful smile to avoid giving herself away. Before they work, Hana comments that Sumeri looks beautiful surrounded by flowers. Sumeri pretends to appreciate the compliment and continues with the weeding. She pulls a little too hard on one weed and doesn't notice the earthworms that land on her uniform from the soil. Hana points them out and Sumeri immediately freaks out and rushes off to wash and calm herself down. As she walks back, she debates whether to just skip out and leave Hana to finish the work alone, but she freezes when she notices Yusuke nearby. She's about to greet him but stops in her tracks when she sees him walking straight to Hana instead. Yuke asks if Hana is once again left to do committee work alone, but Hana tells him that Sumeri is helping out today. She then shows him the salvia flowers he helped her plant, now in full bloom. Samira watches them from a distance and feels a renewed determination. She absolutely has to figure out Hana's secret to catching Yusuke's attention. Once Yusuke leaves, she approaches Hana and invites her to hang out once they're done with committee work. Her true motive is that she hopes to get close enough that Hana will eventually give up on Yusuke. Meanwhile, Yusuke is brought to a multi-hob shop by Sutu, who secretly wants to find out more about Yusuke's hobbies and possibly get him to open up. He starts by asking Yusuke about his dating experiences in junior high, only to be shocked when Yusuke says he's never had a girlfriend. Most of his interactions with girls, he explains, involve being scolded about school matters. Suto can't help but feel a tinge of jealousy. No one ever approached him in junior high. When he finally asks if Yusuke has a crush, Yusuke admits he does. Suto feels oddly relieved that his crush doesn't seem to be Sumer. Suto decides to give Yusuke some advice, proudly calling himself the master of love. He tells Yusuke that a girl that was calm and serious would suit him best. Isuke seems to think it over and asks if he means someone like Hana, but Suto immediately shoots the idea down, insisting that Hana is a bad match in every possible aspect. Just then, Sutma hears some familiar voices. He peeks over a shelf and is horrified to see some of his former junior high classmates nearby. Meanwhile, Hana finds herself wandering a posh shopping mall and can't help but feel completely out of place. Sumer, who invited her, suggests they check out the pharmacy first. Hana thinks she can handle that much, but as soon as she sees the overwhelming variety of hair treatment products, her mind begins to spin. Samira asks curiously what kind of treatment Hana uses. Hana awkwardly admits that she doesn't really use any. Smiling to herself, Samira quietly vows to make Hana back down by making her realize how unfeminine she is in comparison. This time, it's a boutique, filled with frilly and girly clothing. Hana stares at the aisles, clearly overwhelmed again. A sales clerk approaches, offering to help her try something on, and Samira quickly agrees on Hana's behalf. Pressured into the situation, Hana tries on a dress, but it looks terrible on her. She tries another one, but the result is the same. When Samira calls out, asking if Hana is ready, she steps inside the dressing room wearing the same pink dress. Hana explains that the dress didn't suit her, so she changed back. Samira's plan backfires completely. She had wanted to show how much better she looked than Hana in the same dress. Hana feels relieved she changed quickly. She believes Sumer might have been horrified to see her in the same outfit. She adds that she couldn't afford to buy the dress anyway. Realizing Hana had dodged her challenge again, Sumer decides to turn the tables and asks where Hana usually shops. Hana thinks for a moment, listing places like fast food chains and bookstores, but she really doesn't know where to take her. Back at the hobby shop, Yusuke asks Suto if he has a girlfriend. Before he can answer, Sutoma turns to him wearing a full face mask. He declares the store battlefield and tells Yusuke not to call his name aloud. As Suto tries to sneak away, a group of his old classmates appears near the aisle they are in. He panics and turns to run straight to the exit. Yusuke, unfazed, pulls off the mask and reminds him that he can't leave while wearing a product he hasn't paid for. Looking for another item to conceal his identity, Sutu spots a pair of goofy, star-shaped sunglasses and puts them on. Yusuke approaches him with concern and notices that Sutumu is sweating. Without thinking, Sutu brushes him off, telling him to go away. But as Yusuke suddenly walks past him in silence, Sutu realizes a moment too late that his words may have come off harsher than intended. He quickly removes the sunglasses and calls out to Yusuke, but just as he does, figures step in front of him, blocking his way. Elsewhere, Han is still pondering where to take Sumeri when she spots a small general store filled with cute accessories. To her relief, Samir is genuinely impressed by the selection. Samiri admits she's drawn to floral designs because of her name. She then encourages Hana to buy something for herself, secretly hoping to pick out something unflattering to highlight Hana's lack of style. But before Samira can suggest something, Hana chooses a headband decorated with fake grass, leaving Sumire momentarily speechless. Baffled by Hana's poor taste, Sumire questions her choice, assuming Hana would have gone for something floral instead. She then offers Hana a cloverleaf hairpin, suggesting it as a simple yet charming accessory. She suddenly freezes, realizing too late that she just gave Hana genuine styling advice. Hana, touched by the gesture, sees it as a sign of kindness. She happily decides to buy the pin and stares at the small paper bag. She hopes that one day she'll find the courage to wear it, and that when she does, Yusuke might notice and compliment her. That thought sends her into a panic. Realizing she's thinking of Yusuke again, she shakes her head and shouts for the thought to disappear, startling Sumire, who stares at her in confusion. Later, they stop by a cafe for some snacks. Hana begins to feel a little guilty, wondering if Sumire had held back from shopping because of her. Meanwhile, Sumire is quietly frustrated, as she still hasn't figured Hana out. To shift the conversation, she casually asks Hana for romance advice. Hana panics once more, her only experience being through shoujo manga and 2 Digatike game scenarios. Sumire then adds that the advice is actually for a friend who has a crush on the most popular guy in their class. As Hana listens to Sumire explain her friend's dilemma, she begins to wonder if the guy in question is actually Yusuke. The more details Sumire shares, the more Hana's thoughts drift toward him. Sumire then asks if her friend has any real chance at winning her crush over. Feeling a pang of disappointment, Hana admits she's not sure her friend stands a chance, but still encourages her to confess her feelings anyway. The words surprise even herself in her flustered state. She accidentally spills her coffee. Meanwhile, the people blocking Suto turn out to be his old classmates. They quickly resume mocking him, just like they did in junior high. As Tsutomu begins to falter under their insults, Yusuke returns with a bottle of water and casually asks if the group are Suto's old friends. When they confirm, Yusuke introduces himself with a smile as Tsutomu's good friend. The girls in the group are immediately taken with him, and the boys suddenly grow quiet, deciding to leave Suto alone before awkwardly exiting the store. Back at the cafe, Sumire is left confused by Hana's reaction. In her mind, she decides to ask Hana for help in winning Yusuke over. If Hana believed she was helping a friend, she might step aside and give up on her feelings. She hears a sound behind her and expects to see Hana, but instead, a strange man approaches her and insists on talking. She tells him she's with a friend, but he presses on, saying his friend is also looking for company. The situation escalates. Hana witnesses the scene and hesitates, unsure of what to do, until one of the men grabs Sumire's arm. That moment snaps Hana into action. She steps forward and begs the men to leave Sumire alone, firmly claiming that Sumire is her friend. Strangely, the men back off and leave. Meanwhile, Tsutonu learns that Yusuke had only left to buy water for him since he looked pale. He takes a gulp only to find out it's actually sparkling water. Later, as they part ways, Sumire invites Hana to hang out again. As they all go their separate ways, Sumire is left feeling conflicted, all this time trying to bring her down, only to discover that Hana might actually be a genuinely kind. The episode begins with Kizuki stares at his brother for a moment before slamming his backpack onto Yusuke's body to wake him up. Jolted awake, Yusuke groans, and Kizuki casually tells him he should be thankful for the rune awakening, since they got him up on time. Despite the abruptness, Yusuke glances at the time on his phone and realizes Kizuki has a point. As he looks out the window, he wonders if Hana is already at school. At school, Hana shyly admires herself in a small mirror, wearing the clover-shaped hairpin Sumire had picked out for her. But just as quickly she pulls it out, her nerves getting the better of her. She's still too embarrassed to wear it around others. Throughout the morning, she silently studies how other girls wear their accessories, wondering what hairstyle would best suit the pin someday. Yuke arrives at class just as Hana is deep in thought. Tsukunu immediately pounces on him, eager to borrow the newest manga volume. In the scuffle, Yusuke loses his balance and stumbles, bumping into Hana's desk and knocking several papers to the floor. Hana instinctively apologizes, but Yusuke insists it was his fault and that she had every right to be sitting there. He helps gather her scattered belongings, handing her items one by one. Hana quietly marvels at how kind he can be, even in clumsy moments like these. Just then, Sumire strolls up to her, noticing Hana isn't wearing the hairpin. With a smile that hides ulterior motives, she offers to help put it on for her. Secretly, Sumire plans to give Hana a terrible hairstylist payback for Yusuke, speaking to her first that morning. But when Hana searches her bag, she realizes the pin is missing. Before she can search further, the teacher enters and calls the class to order. Sumire retreats, deciding to try again later. During homeroom, Hana grows pale as she begins to suspect the pin, and her hairstyle notes may have fallen when Yusuke bumped into her desk. The teacher asks if she's feeling all right, but Hana quietly insists she's fine. Internally, she's panicking. If anyone sees those notes, it would be the end of her. She watches Yusuke carefully, relieved he hasn't noticed the notebook. Determined, she vows to retrieve it unnoticed. She spends the rest of the morning stealthily stalking Yusuke, waiting for the right moment. During lunch, Yusuke searches his bag and gasps. Hana freezes, thinking he had finally realized the mix-up, but it turns out he just forgot his drink and leaves to buy one. Just as Hana prepares to retrieve her things, Sumire asks to join Yusuke. Hana watches as he casually helps fix a strand of Sumire's hair. From her seat, Hana watches the interaction with heavy heart. She decides not to retrieve the notebook just yet, suddenly feeling like she and Yusuke are worlds apart. After school, Hana waters the flowers by her usual spot, quietly hoping Yusuke would pass by and strike up a conversation like he often did. But when the door finally opens, it's not Yusuke. Instead, it's Tetsuo. He casually informs her that Yusuke had already gone home for the day. Disappointed, Hana returns home, her gloom apparent. Her mother notices the look on her face and gently asks what's wrong. Hana doesn't confess the truth, that she's upset about Yusuke possibly finding her hairpin and notebook. Instead, her mother smiles and tells her she can run an errand for her by delivering a jar of pickles to Yusuke. Hana's eyes widen when her mother refers to him by his first name. Before she can get a clear answer, her mother hands her the jar and a small map to his house. She gives her a knowing wink, much to Hana's dread. With every step, Hana grows more anxious. Along the way, she passes a small flower shop and pauses to admire the blossoms. A blonde woman named Ritsuko steps out of the shop and asks if Hana's looking to buy some. Embarrassed, Hana admits she's thinking of giving flowers to a boy, but isn't sure he'd like them. Ritsuko reassures her that any gift, especially one chosen with care, can make someone happy. A younger boy named Kizuki grumbles that he wouldn't be thrilled to receive flowers himself. Hana's surprised to see a boy working in a flower shop. Ritsuko apologizes for his attitude and puts a floral ribbon on Hana's paper bag. To Hana's surprise, Ritsuko insists the ribbon is a gift. Hana debates, explaining that her present isn't for a date, but ultimately decides to accept Ritsuko's kind gesture. Ritsuko cheerfully waves her off, beaming about young love. Kizuki rolls his eyes at the comment, only for Ritsuko to tease that with that attitude, he'll never be popular with girls. Annoyed, Kizuki grumbles that he's heading home and asks for his own bouquet before Ritsuko disappears inside. Eventually, Hana arrives at Yusuke's home. She stalls in front of the door, nervously rehearsing what she might say. Just then, Kizuki appears behind her, asking what business she has in front of his home. Hana freezes, recognizing Kizuki from the flower shop, and realizing this boy is Yusuke's younger brother. Before she can explain, Kizuki pulls out his phone and starts dialing the police to report a suspicious girl at his doorstep. Hana tries to explain herself, but Kizuki refuses to believe a word she says. The noise eventually draws Yusuke to the door. He steps outside, startled to find Hana and Kizuki standing among uniformed police officers. Once the situation is resolved and the authorities leave, Yusuke quickly apologizes for Kizuki's behavior and invites Hana inside to make up for the trouble. He offers her tea along with the rice cakes packed by her mother, noting how carefully arranged the contents are, especially the ribbon tied around the bag. Hana explains that she passed by a nearby flower shop on the way, where the shopkeeper had kindly tied it for her. When Yusuke mentions the shop, she recalls seeing Kizuki there and wonders if the woman Ritsuko is a relative from his spot nearby. Kizuki begins to squirm. Without hesitation, Yusuke shares that Kizuki often drops by the shop because he likes the woman who works there. Kizuki immediately kicks him in frustration, and the brothers tumble into a small scuffle. Hana watches from across the table, quietly absorbing the scene. Her cheeks warm before she even notices, but Kizuki's sharp eyes catch it. Yusuke excuses himself to change out of his tea-stained clothes, reminding Kizuki to behave in the meantime. As soon as he's out of sight, Kizuki turns to Hana, asking if she likes his brother. She panics, stumbling over her words as she tries to downplay her feelings, but Kizuki only looks at her with mild disinterest, clearly unconvinced. Worry sinks into her chest as she realizes he might say something to Yusuke. She desperately offers to do anything to keep him from revealing the truth. When Yusuke returns, he's surprised to find Hana catering to Kizuki. Despite his concern, she insists she's fine while Kizuki relaxes, satisfied with the turn of events. As the sun begins to set, Hana finally prepares to leave. Before leaving, she brings up the lost notebook, and Yusuke apologetically returns it. She brushes off a matter of the hairpin, laughing it off as something that wouldn't suit her anyway. But just as she turns to go, Yusuke suddenly takes her hand, trying to convince her that she will look fine with the hairpin. For a moment, he holds it before letting go, reminding her that she wouldn't look strange at all. Hana is left staring at Yusuke, her face suddenly growing warm as the sensation lingers on her hand. From the window above, Kizuki watches them carefully, noting the subtly exchange. The next day, Toshik vents his relationship frustrations to the group. He recounts how he went out with his girlfriend the day before, only for her to begin complaining about how broke she was. Believing it to be a subtle cue, he invited her over to his place, thinking it was finally time to take things further. But instead of accepting, she grew nervous and quickly suggested they head somewhere else. He expresses his disappointment, feeling confused after dating her for a while and assuming they had reached a level of trust. Yusuke, clueless as ever, fails to understand the hesitation. In his mind, going to someone's house would save money, making the suggestion practical. So, Tomu finally decides to give him a vague explanation that girls can be complicated, and it's important to be mindful because the smallest thing can ruin the mood. This causes Yusuke to spiral, mentally reviewing all the times he's been close with Hana. A wave of panic rises within him. Class resumes, but Yusuke remains distracted, his thoughts tangled in self-doubt. He replays every moment with Hana, wondering if she's just been too polite to complain. Despite his worries, he tries to reassure himself that Hana never looked uncomfortable. He doesn't notice the teacher calling on him until Kenta nudges him. Snapping out of his thoughts, Yusuke stands and admits he doesn't know the answer. The teacher notices he's holding a math book and reminds him that they're currently in literature class. Yusuke is told to pay attention and stay focused, and he agrees enthusiastically, deciding to ask Hana directly about how she feels. Later, the class prepares cheering props. Yusuke attempts to approach Hana, but Sumer suddenly needs volunteers to help buy more supply. The class eagerly jumps in, suggesting they go together and leave Hana behind. As they urge Yusuke to join, he hesitates, wanting to stay with Hana, but Hana insists he goes, leaving Yusuke with a sinking feeling as he processes the rejection. Inside the stationery shop, Yusuke remains distracted, guilt gnawing at him over how he's acted around Hana. Sumer approaches, asking if he wants to buy a cheering fan, like everyone else. When he doesn't respond right away, she tilts her head and asks if something's bothering him and if it has anything to do with Hana. Yuke is startled, as she could tell, but Sume only smiles, her expression composed even as she suppresses her true feelings. He eventually confides in her, explaining what happened yesterday at his place. As he talks, Samira listens silently, masking her growing frustration over how close he and Hana have become. Once he finishes, she gently tells him he's likely just overthinking everything. Samira assures him that Hana, as his friend, probably doesn't view him in a negative light. Encouraged by her words, Yusuke feels lighter and thanks her, saying he'll head back to school to speak with Hana directly. Samira tries to follow, but her classmates call for her to help pick props. Forced to stay behind, she forces a smile, all the while cursing Hana silently in her thoughts. Meanwhile, Yusuke races back to campus. Just outside, he spots Hana taking out the trash. He watches as she slips on a puddle. From a distance, he calls out and asks if she's okay, startling her. When she turns to him, he wastes no time. He admits they need to talk, and begins listing moments that might have come off as rude or inappropriate. He apologizes sincerely, concerned that he may have hurt her without realizing. Yusuke feels a sense of relief for finally getting the words out. But then he notices her hesitance, with how she won't meet his eyes, how her posture turns guarded. He instinctively reaches out, only to stop himself, as Hana finally speaks. Still avoiding his gaze, she reassures him that she's not angry. Relieved, he offers to help and picks up one of the trash bags. He admits he doesn't understand girls all that well, but hopes he can learn someday. Later that evening, Hana stares fondly at a new game case ready to begin. She notices a character that vaguely resembles Yusuke, and wonders if she should try his route first, but midway she realizes how creepy that is and screams. Her parents hear her and assume she's seen a bug. This is how today's episode ends. If you liked the video, click like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell icon to receive all new updates. She stayed up playing until dawn. Today is the sports tournament. She's also going to participate. 2 boys in his class see the poster he made and consider it a disaster. The handsome man, on the other hand, does like it. It's very striking. Since he was playing with a character very similar to him, he began to admire him. The games begin. The protagonist even has her own racket. She is a high school expert. It was mandatory to join some club. The young man quickly realizes that she too must have had some dark high school years. There is some time left until the next game. They should go cheer on the football team. She's not going to go. It will stay. While the young man goes in search of the handsome man, he sees the popular woman very close. It's obvious that she has feelings for something. It's even said that couples form in these sports activities. Desperate, do you want to know if he talked about love matters with the popular woman? She told him that someone had a crush on the most handsome boy in class. Obviously, everything is connected. To avoid them being linked, remember that he mentioned the sprout. Then he's going to match them up. She asks her directly if she wants to be the handsome man's girlfriend. They are both very handsome. The others also approach her and begin to make her uncomfortable. The pressure is so great that Greta could never go out with him. Unfortunately for him, he heard it all. By insisting so much and putting pressure on him, he'll solve it. You have nothing to worry about. He's useless, wants to take him back. His words should not be taken literally. Girls say anything when they're nervous. That is not true. You better go. His plan didn't work. The only solution is for her to apologize herself. He doesn't want to do it. If you lose, your participation is over and you would have free time to apologize. So he's going to win until he has what he's going to say ready. After a while, they meet and he ignores her. Yes, he noticed that she wanted to talk, but she was so scared that she ran away. In the end, he loses his game. They should go cheer on the football team, but he keeps refusing. He was going to leave her alone, but he comes back and convinces her. The handsome guy once said something horrible to her and she forgave him, so he has nothing to worry about. He is a good person. The boys are losing. You have to encourage them. She timidly shouts and listens to him, but this makes him look at her and gets hit with a ball, having to go to the infirmary. The popular one is dying of jealousy. He realized that all the tension went into the sprout. In the end, he failed to fix the misunderstanding. At least he'll leave her a letter of apology. He is very sorry for having made you uncomfortable with his words. He didn't want to tell her that he found it unpleasant. Because he is an extraordinary person, he knows that he does not deserve to have such an important place in his life. I was about to put it in his locker, and it just showed up. After the accident, he fell asleep in the infirmary. Since he has the letter in his hands, he reads it right there. He's a bit of a fool, so he's afraid he's misunderstood. He wants to know if you don't hate him. Not at all. She could never hate him because for her it is the ultimate devotion. He did not understand what he wanted to say, thus ending the 5th chapter. And if you liked the summary, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.